that line, which has to do with lat longs, I believe, is right in the middle. There's it's all right there. I just can't figure it out yet.
Well, it is all right there in the poem, and we all just can't figure it out, but that's what we're here for. Welcome back to the hunt for Posey's treasure. This is episode number 6. Date of recording is June 12th, 2025. Yes, if you've been following our journey thus far, the search has begun. The magnifying glasses are out. We've been deciphering, we've been searching, we've been arguing. A lot of passion has come forth, and what I've been most pleased to see is that the Cowboy is, as I knew he would, become fully immersed in this journey. You know, he was a little bit of an outsider a lot of times in these films. When you go into majestic worlds, you need to have an outsider newly crossing in to journey with them, and that is the Cowboy himself. So I don't have much to tee up because there's so much to dive into, so I'm just going to go ahead, pass it over to you, Cowboy. How was your week this week? What's gone on with your latest solve?
Wow, thank you so much for that decent introduction.
Wow.
I had, I guess, pretty much a pivoting week. I've pivoted somewhere else now, basically. And we can get into the details of it. I don't have like a specific area. I have like a general area, but it is now Montana for me. Yes, it's been you and a friend of ours,
Dr. Clowns.
Yes, we're talking quite about it.
He's our colleague.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it, and I started to do a little bit of research, and it all sparked with this idea that has kind of led down this rabbit hole of like a couple of things lining up. It's kind of like you talked about. It's, you kind of start seeing some like anomalies, essentially, like, oh, well, like, oh, there's like this, there's the bear, there's the gates, or whatever it is, and you start to kind of whittle it into it like a certain area. And that's kind of what I've done, and I'm happy to talk all about it. But yeah, it kind of all started with this one kind of like interesting thought, because you guys were talking about Sacagawea and that like Lewis and Clark area in Montana, and I started kind of like going down that rabbit hole, and then there's the classic line, "Return her face to find the place." And I thought, well, Sacagawea is on the golden dollar, baby. And I was like, maybe it has to do with her face on the golden, return her face to find the place. I have no idea where that leads, but I kind of went down this Sacagawea rabbit hole, a sentence I never thought I would say. But now we're here. I got a bunch of like interesting, it was the Sacagawea, and then it was the lat long lines, which I guess is another part of this, is like the 45th parallel, which was mentioned by somebody, mentioned that in our chat, and I was like, the 45th parallel, interesting. And I like looked along the 45th parallel. It runs right across Montana, right in the area where Sacagawea had kind of done her thing before going on the expedition with Lewis and Clark, and where she ended up coming back home afterwards with their final thing. It was all in this area. And there were a lot of other things that kind of culminated in the poem and in my little tiny brain. So that's where I'm at. I'm in Montana right now. I'm not physically in Montana. Mentally, I'm in Montana. So that's where I'm at. Where are you? How are you? How was your week in the Beyond the Map's Edge poem?
Wow. From a pivotal week to a pivoting week, which maybe then would return us to a pivotal week. Could be. We'll see where it goes. That said, I've been heartened by the directions. I've been heartened to see you in the chat, digging in, heeding my advice, which is to listen to the man himself. Listen to the rules of this thing, all right, and respect them.
Heeding my advice? How do you turn this into you? Boy, just keep going.
Last week was all about California, and since then, seems like you steered yourself another direction. Was that the boat steering itself, or were there some currents redirecting you?
It's called an open mind. It's called an open mind. Where are you? I asked you, where are you? Are you still playing in the sand in the Arizona desert?
I mean, as I've said, like, you've kind of set off. I'm still on my doorstep being the angry guy saying, get the hell off my lawn. But, you know, the big progress this week, as I promised y'all, is I finished the book. The Beyond the Map's Edge. I can add that to my library of like the 12 books I've read lifetime. It's in there now. Cover to cover, baby. But that said, I think I shared in our group chat, with you and Dr. Clowns is like I emerged from finishing this book feeling almost more lost than when I started. Because, yes, Justin's claimed he doesn't have any intentional red herrings, but anyone who's read this book knows. Like, maybe they're not red herrings, but they're things to throw. There's so many potential. Like, is that a clue? Is that a clue? There's hundreds of locations mentioned. The word treasure mentioned dozens of times. So many potential things that it's like, oh, this is a clue. Maybe it's not. So, where am I at? I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm unpacking still, kind of deciphering my notes and like distilling what's most important. And we will touch on that as part of this episode, I feel like. But in general, reassessing, I'm still in the same boat after reading the book as I kind of was when I started, where if I had to put a short list of the states, we got Montana, as you've discussed, Arizona, and New Mexico. Those are like 95% of the locations that are meaningful, and the stories that he's told in the book are relegated to those states. So that's where I'm at.
Got it. Got it. So, any progress? Are you just a tri-stater right now, or what's going on? Are you just fully in the? I think it's tough because you really have to. Again, you have to narrow it down at some point. Are
Yeah.
you narrowing? Are you narrowing?
I'm building a short list of locations, specifically based off a particular portion, or I should say, a particular excerpt. Justin's own words in the book have kind of led me to go back, look through the book in a closer lens. And yes, I've built a bit of a short list, which we will discuss later in this episode. So stay tuned. But that's where I'm at. Slowly narrowing the list, and then from there, kind of starting to look around a little more. I'm not getting, though, really technical. I think I started off very much looking for technical. I've talked about I'm, obsessed with the cipher, breaking it down. I've now gone back to the literal, like trying to get inside the mind of the man himself, Justin Posey.
Yeah, yeah. You talk about researching, and I kind of had a breakthrough this week where once I went down the Sacagawea rabbit hole, I basically started to think that the traditional Google map searching and such, like looking for any kind of landmarks or anything that relates to the poem through Google Maps, I kind of turned that on its head and realized like maybe there are Native American landmarks or there are like Lewis and Clark maps because it seems tricky to me. I don't know, something I'm really like against. I think like Google Maps just showing you the way. I think that there's a deeper level to this, and that's where I started actually going down this rabbit hole. And there's a really great website if you want to go down this rabbit hole. It is a rabbit hole for sure, but and I can kind of talk about why I went down this rabbit hole. But there's a website called lewis-clark.org, and it essentially has all of Clark's maps in the Montana area when they went through that on their way along their journey west and back. And it's a great website. They have all these old maps, and they have like these great like easy overlays. So like you look at the map and then you do it, and then they kind of like transcribe it in a way so you can see exactly what is written. So you're not like straining your eyes like trying to like understand this 200-year-old cursive where you're like, what is that? So it's really, really fascinating. And there's a lot, I think it led to a lot of insight into that like area, the landmarks, and how it kind of relates to the poem. I mean, simple stuff to where like, there's one area on this website where like Clark literally referred to 6 different areas as the gates to the Rocky Mountains. You know what I'm saying? And obviously like his bride stands guard at ancient gates. Gates gets mentioned. So you think gates, like, yeah, the gates to the Rockies, that all kind of makes sense. And then of course there's along one of those gates, there is a Bear-Tooth Mountain, Ursa East, Bear, Ursa. It's like, there's a lot of little things that started to add up. Try to look back at my notes right now, but.
Well, I got to interrupt you because I got some thoughts.
Okay.
I think this is a smart.
Thank you. Well, hang on. I got a
quote. Oh, hang on. Let me make you think it's stupid first before you go.
Yeah. Let me completely undercut you here. One of the areas in this is the Three Forks area, and it's these 3 rivers that come together. It's it's like the Madison. I don't know. I don't have them written down, but there's these 3 rivers that come together in Montana.
Oh, searchers of Fenn's treasure will know those rivers well because of the Madison Junction. That was the first clue of Fenn's hunt.
Yes. And so let me read this quote. And this is like from the journals. When settlement began in the valleys south of Three Forks in 1864, amid the distractions of a nearby gold rush, No one thought to consult Clark's 1814 map to see if the captains had already given it a name. They had, and on the 25th of July, 1805, they named it Philosophy River in observance of one of the virtues upheld by the Fellowship of Freemasonry. See Lewis's other master masonry. Soon adding the Philanthropy River. They named a river Philanthropy River, which just is such a mouthful. But they now called it the Ruby. And then these guys that didn't know this map, they named Big Hole, they named it Wisdom, the Wisdom River. So what's fascinating is like you have obviously the Big Hole. I think that's one of the big like kind of like
Yeah.
like landmarks past the hole. Well, Big Hole, I'm not this isn't some groundbreaking thing, but a lot of people have,
Yeah.
the Big Hole. But the Big Hole was misnamed by a different settlement group, the Wisdom, which of course, wisdom waits in shadowed sight. It sits right beneath the mountain. It's kind of there, and I know it seems like the screws in my brain are twisting and all that, but there's a lot of these little things that line up, and I think they're. I don't have it yet, but I think some stuff's lining up.
I I mean, despite your best efforts to try and convince me this is stupid, I think it's smart still. And the main reason is like there's thousands of people out there searching. I like your note about like maybe it's outside of Google Maps. We got to be taking new approaches. If it was as simple as like, oh, it's Big Hole River in Montana and this and that, that would have been solved week 1, month 1, or whatever it is. But we're far past that. We got to be exploring other avenues, other sources of truth. And I think what you've potentially found could be significant. So I'm going to just say, keep going.
Yeah, and there's also a really I think this is where my next bit of research goes, but there's this passage from one of their diaries where they talk about on the way back, Sacagawea took them from Big Hole area to Three Forks. And there's some like path that they took, and it's like I got to do a little bit more research. I haven't quite gone down that rabbit hole, but something around the Big Hole, Three Forks, Sacagawea, it's all kind of in that like yeah, it's something's going on there. That's where my brain is. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm giving
All right.
giving the farm away with my ideas, but I guess that's what this was for.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I think that you've already uncovered some interesting things. The wisdom thing, most of all, because, when everyone hears wisdom waits in shadowed sight and they're looking at Montana, they're thinking, oh, wisdom, Montana. But this interesting lens, I love it. Keep going. But to kind of pivot from there, as we've been pivoting this episode, to start this episode, the first thing I'd like to discuss are a few clarifications because you've heard it already. We are open to them. We love the community. We love the engagement we've been getting on our YouTube, on our emails, and had some specific insights from some of our users. Whereas I should say, firstly, I went back. We talked about the Lewis Carroll quote at the end of Justin's recorded video where he announces the hunt. And I said, yeah, and somebody claimed it's not even Lewis Carroll himself. So I went back. That was actually a Reddit thread where someone had made that comment. And so I explored that. I did some deep diving. I typed the exact quote word for word into Google. And I got to say, whoever you are, Reddit guy, I don't know if you're listening, but I can't find any attribution to anyone else for that quote. So as far as I know, the quote in that doc is widely attributed to Lewis Carroll, though there is no source for it. It's not like it's from this book or this series of writings. If you Google the quote, you'll just find literally like it's everywhere, like on the little like, Pinterest pages of like a little meme for your, kitchen inspiration board. So if you're out there and you have the real source of this quote, let me know. But as far as I know, it is Lewis Carroll. But that said, it's kind of interesting. Lewis Carroll, Lewis and Clark. You think there's any connection there?
Maybe I haven't been playing the Cypher game though. I gave that a solid week, and my brain was mush after that.
That's how I was. I literally spent a good chunk of time, probably an hour, on that Lewis Carroll cipher we discussed last week, the alphabet cipher or Vignere cipher, however you want to refer to it. I figured it out. I figured out how to actually use it, and there's websites that'll do it for you, but I wanted to make sure I understood. I did. I ran all sorts of things as I was setting you through the cipher. It's spitting out nothing. And I even had a little dialogue with someone on our YouTube about trying to clarify. But I kind of got to this point, and this is a little disclaimer for y'all listeners. We've had a lot of folks reaching out, giving us really cryptic, stuff, like hints, like, oh, try this for the cipher, but they're not spelling it out. And I just got to say this, like, we got enough mysteries on our hand right now to try and unfold. Like, if you got some tips, let us know. If not, I don't need another freaking riddle to try and solve. And also, what exactly is the point of that? Like, do you want me to figure it out? And if I did, then why not just tell me the damn information? That's where I'm at, Cowboy.
Wow, hating on the listeners. Interesting angle for a starting podcast. Well, listen, I love it all. Please, everybody, keep sending it in. Let's push Tron to his limits. I think this is exactly the direction we need to go. I think it's fantastic. I mean, if you can't figure it out from the vague little clues that they're sending, then that's on you, buddy.
Wow. All right. That said, we'll just keep moving on. Some interesting, though, the most interesting thing for me this week wasn't finishing the book. It was an expose, which was shared with us by Dr. Clowns. It was done by New York Magazine, written by Benjamin Wallace. If you watched Gold and Greed, The Hunt for Fenn's Treasure, Ben Wallace is interviewed throughout that. He is a journalist who chronicled Fenn's hunt. Well, he did a massive expose that was, I don't know when it was originally published, but if you go access it now, it says it was updated March 27th, 2025. But you got to go through this if you haven't. It's an episode in and of itself. I was planning to do it this episode, but just other stuff stacked up. So I'd like to explore it later. But to me, I mean, I was sharing tons of experts and I felt like you kind of were vibing with it and being like, wow, yeah, this is interesting. Because it was just illuminating in terms of so many tidbits about how Justin was approaching Fenn's hunt in terms of like deciphering the poem, his mindset. And as I've said, that's really been my focus, trying to get inside the mind of a Justin Posey. But any thoughts on that expose, if you can recall it at all? I know you have trouble with that information recall.
Well, I just want to ask and you've mentioned this before, I think, but I'd love like a definitive like version of how would you describe him approaching this? Like what specifically are you taking away from that is like applicable here? Because it's one thing to like understand, but like what do you mean? Like I would love to hear more. Like what are you finding in that?
That's a fantastic question. Specifically, I mean, I thought one thing that really jumped out to me was Justin became very, this is where actually to answer your question from before, where did the 45th parallel come from? I believe it was from this discussion. So this is a quote from the expose. At one point, he being Justin Posey, became interested in the 45th parallel, roughly halfway between the equator and the North Pole, which he thought, oh, it's between hot and cold. So it could be potentially where warm waters halt. And he talks about that people were saying, oh, the gold could be, Fenn's gold could be in Colorado. And Justin said, well, no, I felt like Forrest never mentioned anything about it in his book. And I felt like Forrest was more brazen. He would mention in the book where it is. So like to me, I don't know, these just illustrate, these are inherent biases and inherent kind of ways he was thinking about the world. He also, then later on, it got a little confusing, but ultimately it sounds like he and a group of hunters, after the treasure was discovered, they were obsessed with finding out where it was, trying to kind of reverse engineer from that photograph of the treasure. Where did the guy, Jack Stoy, find it? And so one of the ways they did that was some like GPS-based solution to the poem where you took homophones in the book, like the word for, F-O-R, can also mean F-O-U-R, the number, or the word to, T-O, could also be T-W-O-2. They took that, and then they were able to, like, extrapolate a latitude and longitude. So, I don't know, to me, at first I was like, dude, you guys are looking for lat longs in this? Like, there's no way. But after I read this expose, seeing, like, he was really looking that way with Fenn's poem, I don't know, I think just there's credence to it. That's where I'm at. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And I do still think that there's something going on with the foot of three at 20 degree. I that led me to California, which I think I'm not done with that, but I feel like it's a bit more of a stretch. Yeah, I think too, kind of to that point, just like with the lat long, and it could be like 20 degree means something, I think. Our friend Dr. Clowns had pointed out that if you look at the poem, the middle stanza break, there's 10 rhymes above it and 10 rhymes below it. So essentially like 10 rhymes above 20 degree and then 10 rhymes below it. It's right in the damn middle. I feel like it's being pointed out some, and also again, like this is, I just am thinking about this, but in the middle, that's what the 45th parallel is. It's essentially between the equator and the North Pole, right? It's right in the middle. That line, which has to do with lat longs, I believe, is right in the middle. There's it's all right there. I just can't figure it out yet.
Well, it is all right there in the poem, and we all just can't figure it out. But that's what we're here for. As we've said, if you're first time joining us, welcome to the podcast. If you're a seasoned hunter, seasoned listener, welcome back. We love you. Like, subscribe, leave us reviews wherever you get your podcast. That said, we've touched on, there's so much to dive into this expose. We could go on for hours, but we will continue on. We will revisit that at a later episode. Few other things, though, that relate here in terms of what did I take away from the book. Maybe not a clarification, but some questions we've had were answered. Some questions I've had, or maybe we, but we've talked about the broken leg. Where's the confirmation of that? Where did that come from? Well, it is here right in the book, the treasure chapter. That's literally the title of it, the treasure, where he just chronicles how he hid this thing. And he talks about that he was helping a neighbor move his truck. One thing led to another, and he broke his tibia. So we can confirm he had a broken tibia during the course of the hiding the treasure. He also talks about how he, which is on the website, he went on, 2 4,500-mile journeys to hide it. The first was like a reconnaissance. The second was hiding it somewhere along the way. And I know we had a chat where you're like, no way he's just going to drive that many miles with a broken leg. Well, according to the man himself in his book, that's the case. So when you're thinking about solves, potential locations, as we've said with Fenn, it was keep in mind this was an 80-year-old man doing this. Well, in this one, it was an able-bodied man, but he had a broken tibia.
So not an able-bodied man.
Yeah,
you would say, to like by definition not able-bodied because he had a broken leg.
Thanks. Yeah.
But yeah, I still, I mean, it's hard for me to look into anything around the concept of him driving. It's like 9,000 miles or something, was it? Or 4,500? I can't remember.
He says over 9,000 miles. So yeah, 2 journeys, about roughly 45.
I'm not honestly interested in figuring out the route of that. And if it was a lot like that is just another level of like insanity to try to, I'm not interested at all in exploring that. I don't know if you still are, but I played around with that on Google Maps a little bit and looking at routes and like, there's just too many variables. Like it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like he could have drove into Alaska and back, and there's literally like an infinite amount of ways he could have gone. So for me, I'm not moved by that at all. It's not pulling me down a hole.
Yeah, but I just think when we get to the point where we're marking out locations, again, this is another rule, and it was maybe not a clarification, but I can confirm that, which I think we were unsure on. So this is just a definitive fact addendum.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Additionally, in the book, we had somebody mention, which I disagreed with last week based off his interview, that Justin purchased the entire trove of treasure from Fenn. Interviews seem to contradict this. But in the book, he clarifies here, Cowboy. I'm reading directly from it. Little did I know then that I'd end up owning a piece of Forrest's legacy myself. When his treasure was finally discovered, I did something that would have seemed absurd to me while reading that Newsweek article. That's the one that inspired him to go hunting years prior. He negotiated with the finder, Jack Stoife, to buy the entire treasure. The deal was sealed through my LLC, though I never planned to keep it all for myself. It felt right to ensure that the thousands of searchers who'd poured their hearts into the hunt should have a chance to own a piece of the adventure they lived. So, most of it went to auction. I kept a few choice pieces, including the bronze chest itself. So there you go.
Got it. Oh, so he bought it directly from the dude that originally found it. Wow, I thought it was like through Heritage Auctions or something.
Yeah, I don't know the exact things, and I guess it went to his LLC, and then as he said, there's some portions of it in this new treasure, the dragon bracelet. He clarifies in the book, though, that he kept the actual treasure chest that Forrest was in. He's like, that one belongs to me, that one's staying with me. So, again, interesting little clarification. I guess I should apologize to the man who said that it wasn't clear in the documentary that he did buy it all. You, sir, have been proven correct by this book, and I will maintain that until somebody else comes along and can contradict it once more.
Have you heard, this is kind of a pivot maybe the theme of this episode is pivoting, but have
I
you
think
heard
so.
any of the, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I kind of am a lawyer, but
Hmm.
if I was reading on Reddit, there's no way for the treasure to be hidden in California because of this law, and I'm going to read it here. Well, this might be an AI overview, but basically in California, if someone stumbles upon property that's been abandoned, they can't simply claim it as their own. Instead, they must turn it over to law enforcement or the appropriate authority. These authorities then become the custodians of the property, holding it for the rightful owner to claim it. If no one claims the property, it can be released to the finder after a period of time, or it may be sold at auction or otherwise disposed of. It depends on its value. So I guess reading that, the end of that there, I guess if somebody found it, it gets turned over to authorities, and then the authorities, like I'm assuming that they would contact Justin, and Justin would say yes, it can go to them. But that seems like a weird
Yeah.
loophole, messy. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's a fantastic point, and that's on my agenda. I appreciate you teeing it up.
Oh, again, didn't know we had an agenda or an outline for the record.
Yeah, you don't know a lot. That said, this young man or woman who commented was Mr. Jordan McGee on YouTube. He said, in regards to California, while the treasure could be anywhere in the American West, each state has its own, quote, treasure trove laws. These laws in certain states would prevent someone from hiding a treasure in those states. Would you hide a treasure in a state that claims ownership to any abandoned or found treasures? Some states automatically exclude themselves from the hunt based on their treasure trove laws alone, and it sounds like, based off your initial investigation, California might be one of those states.
Yeah, it sure seems like that. And it seems like a really risky maneuver by Justin to do that. It almost does preclude California, I feel like. I don't know. It
Yeah,
seems that way. But I guess I would now imagine that Montana isn't that way because of the Fenn treasure
yeah.
hunt. So I would be curious to look up Arizona. I'd be curious to look at New Mexico,
Mhm.
the hot spot.
Yeah, we got to look into that. Additionally, a common theme throughout this is that Justin's really dotted his I's, crossed his T's in regards to the legality behind this thing. Like, clearly, that was a huge issue with the Fenn treasure. Fenn, I think, him ultimately passing away, like, resolved a lot of that. But if he was still alive, I think this thing would still be a complete mess in the courts and all of that. So I do think, like, Justin certainly is going to take something like this into account. And if there's laws that are going to make it exceedingly difficult, something like that, I think that's very, very much so, like, that precludes that area. But I just don't know enough about those laws as it stands now to definitively rule out places. I guess I wasn't looking in California, but like you said, we got to look into Arizona, Montana, New Mexico in terms of those laws.
Yeah, it makes me think, he definitely has a lawyer and I'm sure he consulted somebody about
Oh,
this. And now I'm
oh
wondering,
my God.
wonder if he used the same lawyer as Fenn did in Santa Fe.
The time has come. I don't know if he can release that information in terms of his client, I guess.
Well,
But
it's attorney-client privilege. He's not
yeah,
gonna know, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe we should reach out.
I mean, that's your guy. Let's get him on if you think. But that's the answer right there. That's the guy who's gonna know the answers, dude.
Well, I'm just curious. I wonder if Justin hired him.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying he would tell us like the nature of their conversations, but like I believe if you ask a doctor, like, is this person your patient? They can't even say that. I don't know if a lawyer, if you can say like, is this person your client? Like, are they able to say, yeah, I'm representing him or like I've worked with him? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you file a lawsuit or something, if you go to sue somebody and you're like, "Are you representing him?" They'll probably say yes or no.
Somebody sue Justin. See who's on the letterhead that writes back. That's great. No, that's really interesting. We got to get that guy on here. If anybody has any more information on these treasure trove laws, let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the final thing here as we wrap up this episode, to answer your question, to circle back, where am I starting? Where am I at in my search? Here's where I'm at, ladies and gentlemen, after I read that book cover to cover. There was one part that stood out to me in terms of like, this is it. This is, if I had to do one takeaway, like, this is what I would set aside Take all the clues off the board. What's the one that is your North Star, your guiding light for where this thing is? Now, it's not anything groundbreaking, but to me, he lays it out very clearly. He says, quote unquote, in the book, I've secreted it away, it being Posey's treasure, the thing we're all hunting, in a spot that's dear to my heart, a location that whispers of personal lore and secrets. To me, that is the touchstone when it comes to any solve. And again, like, I don't know why I have to preface this, or maybe I don't, but like, all these are my opinions and how I'm doing it. So I don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings, but to me, that's every single thing. That's the lens I look at it through. You tell me it's in this place, to me, first thing I wonder is that a spot that's dear to his heart we could consider? Is that a spot that whispers of personal lore and secrets? I just think that's it. So that's where I'm at before I reveal my short list thoughts on that.
Yeah, I know that about you. That's how you come at every thing that I bring up and try to explain with you. You come at me harshly with the hard hand of, is it near and dear to Justin's heart? So yes, that makes sense, and I think that's a fine lens to look through. Is, that should be your. We should have different ways of looking at it.
Yes,
I think
I
that's
agree.
part of what I look at.
Absolutely.
And but it's not the only lens I have. I got a bunch of lenses.
Yes. For me, just this one. But with that said, I went back then and said, well, there was one word I do remember seeing a lot in this book, and that was the word whisper. So I went in the book, and the benefit of the ebook is you can do the Command F. You can go ahead and find specific things, calculate that. Well, the word whisper occurs 51 times.
That seems like a lot for the word whisper.
It is. I know, right? It is.
It's a weird word to say so much. Like how many different contexts can you use the word whisper in?
Yeah, he uses that word a lot. So I said, obviously, and then going through the list, I started going through them one by one. Well, a good amount is just literally he's using it to describe how someone was speaking at a time. So
Yeah.
I kind of cast those aside and I looked, where are there locations that he is associating with the word whisper? And I was able to derive, let's count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, but 8 and 9 were both related to Fenn's hunt, so I'm going to set them aside. So basically 7 locations in the book in which he used the word whisper to associate with that in a symbolic way, not in a literal way of like, oh, I was whispering while taking a dump at 9 Mile Hole. No. So those locations are Blackhead Deer Creek, Montana. He actually used the word whispers when describing that location twice. Number 2, Big Hole River, Montana, which we've discussed. Number 3, Oro Valley, Arizona. Number 4, Tucson, Arizona, or I think I lost count. Maybe I'm on 5. I don't know. The next was Victoria Peak, New Mexico. And then finally was Mount Lemmon, Arizona. I could go through the whole quotes, but it's a lot. I'll spare you. And so those are my short lists right now. And I think I'm kind of starting with the top one. I'm kind of been poking around Blackhead Deer Creek, Montana.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so all those locations, I guess serendipitously, are Montana, Arizona, and New Mexico. And is that why you've chosen the tri-state area?
I didn't. So, I mean, I kind of did this list on the fly in the text with you all. I said, 51 instances of the word whispers. And then from there, I was like, here's the ones associated with locations. And I listed it all out. I didn't like reverse engineer this to try and, confirmation bias. Is that what you're accusing me of?
Yes, I am. That's exactly
Okay.
what I'm saying. Thank you for saying that and putting the words in my mouth.
No, I didn't. But interestingly enough, it was. And then, so for full clarity, the 2 locations that it did leave off, that I left off that were associated with Fenn's hunt, that he used the word whispers to relate to, were Iron Springs and 9 Mile Hole. But again, those were in the context of discussing Fenn's hunt. So in my opinion, I felt like that wasn't relevant. And I'm not looking at 9 Mile Hole for Posey's treasure. I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Why not?
I mean, do you really think the man would do that? Like, really? Do you entertain that it's potentially there?
I I mean, I don't think it's worth excluding because of that, basically. I don't think I don't know. I guess I hear your point.
And there's so many people that have gone to relook for like for it. I don't know. I just, like we've talked about, there's assumptions you
Now,
have
yeah,
to
I
make.
guess it would be a pretty lame. It'd be pretty lame.
Like, yeah, he says what you seek, you already know. Like, I don't know. And I also just feel like there's so many people in that
It's
area,
a little on the nose, yeah.
a lot that like somebody might recognize him and he clearly wanted to, he didn't drive his car to hide the treasure, all these other things. But that said, that's really gonna do it for us on this episode. We've dove into a lot. Dove into is not a word, but I'm going with it. But final thing I want to clarify, a clarification I missed was we talked about the Bitcoin wallet last week and had a wonderful user clarify, which actually once we logged off, I thought about it when I was discussing with Lady Tron, is that is a crypto wallet like, is it actually a electronic thing? And people online basically said, no, it's not. That the crypto wallet, or effectively what's in the chest, is like a half of a sequence of numbers, and
Hmm.
that's how you get access to it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about that. That's again not. I think you have to really filter out what's important and not, and that is not important for the
Well, we
search.
talked about that it could preclude areas with extreme temperatures because it's an electronic device, but what they're effectively saying is no, it's not an electronic device.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Well,
So,
screw me. It's in Arizona.
no, no. I just mean there's no electronic device from our understanding potentially in there that we know about. But if people got other hints and maybe there is a Bitcoin wall is an electronic thing, it's not. Clearly, we're both huge crypto bros because we're so well versed in this. But yeah, wanted to touch on that, clarify that.
Cool. Very, very cool. Is that bringing us full circle out to the pastures? Is it time for the end?
I think it is. It's time to continue on with my co-host, the Cowboy, flipping his California gold dollar with the face of Sacagawea, trying to figure out what's on the other side of that coin. Whereas me, I'll be whispering about some locations, looking at that, re-examining the book, re-examining my notes. But we are in this thing. We are diving. Where are you all at, listeners? I see more people boots on the ground. We actually had a gentleman reach out to us this week who said he knows where it is. He was going to retrieve it 24 hours from the point of him emailing, and that he would be happy to come on the podcast to discuss. Sir, if you are out there, if you have the treasure, let us know. I have not heard an update.
Yeah, please. We're open to guests, I think is what we're saying.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Oh, wait. No, he wrote back. He wrote back. Credit to him, sir. Rocking Adventures. He said, scratch that. Was his next email. That's what I get for running my mouth. Ha ha. Hopefully I will be back. So I just got to say, salute to you, sir. You're the first one I've actually encountered who's like, I know where it is, I'm going, who then came back and said, you know what, it's not there. But that said, please share more about your solve. If you're open to sharing it, we'd love to explore it on a future pod. But we love you all out there interacting us. We love you all out there listening. We especially love you all giving us good ratings and all that good stuff.
Yes, please keep them coming. We do appreciate it.
Keep it coming, keep it going, keep it up, and keep it flowing. We will talk to you all next time. And until then, y'all, happy hunting.
And stay safe.